they were so determined to get this ice cream, right? As soon as they heard the music, they were like, oh my gosh, we got to go to it. And it wasn't even an option in their mind. Like they had no idea that they were going to be kidnapped, right? They were thinking, oh, I'm just going to get ice cream, but little did they know that, boom, right there, they were going to be kidnapped. And so tonight, talking about sexual sin, sexual temptations, here's where I want to start. Here's where I want to start. I want to give you guys maybe the freedom. Maybe for the very first time you've heard this from anybody. But if you or you know someone who is sending or receiving unrequested images, text, whatever it is, tell a trusted adult. Tell somebody that you trust and that you know can handle whatever situation it is. And I'll tell you, if you receive unrequested, immediately block, immediately report, whatever that is on whatever social media app it is, tell somebody about it. It is okay to tell somebody about it. But if you're the one sending, or maybe you're the one requesting these things, just stop. It's not okay. Like I was saying, man, these things destroy families. They destroy relationships. They destroy you. And so let's just not do that anymore. So that's my dad talk for the day. And so we're going to get back into the scripture. And so about the minions, right? They were tempted by ice cream. I know that's super silly, right? And it's super silly that they were tempted by ice cream. I'm tempted by ice cream every single day, right? But they were determined to go get that ice cream. They had to have it, right? And the thought, we're going to get kidnapped, didn't even cross their mind, right? But it happened. And so before we go any further, what I want us to do is define the word temptation. I just want us to define the word temptation because I think it gets thrown around a lot. Maybe you don't know exactly what it means, but here's what the word temptation means. And I apologize, I didn't put it up on the screen, but if you can remember what I say and write it down, that would be awesome. Temptation are desires that can lead us to do things that are wrong, unwise, destructive, unhealthy, and contrary to the things we actually want to do. Temptation leads to sin. And so the thing about temptation tonight, we're going to be talking specifically about sexual temptation. But temptation comes in all forms and fashions, right? I know you guys know this, just being in middle school on a daily basis, right? You guys are tempted to cheat on a test. You guys are tempted to hang out with these certain people. You guys are tempted to fight somebody you don't like. You guys are tempted to vape in the bathroom. You guys are tempted to maybe do something illegal that you know is bad. Maybe you guys are tempted sexually even at school, wherever it is. Man, temptation comes in all forms and fashions. And so what I want us to understand is these temptations, they are normal. They're a normal part of life. They're a normal part of life. But here's what I want us to understand. That sin will always take you further than you want to go. Sin will always keep you longer than you want to stay and cost you more than you want to pay. I know that kind of rhymes a little bit, but it's true. It's true. Sin will always take you further than you want to go, right? Man, think about these minions, right? They didn't think they were going to get captured. They didn't think they were going to get kidnapped, but boom, there they are. They went further than maybe they wanted to go. Sin keeps you longer than you want to stay, and it costs you more than you're willing to pay. And so the main idea of tonight's message, you can go ahead and write this down, but here's what I want us to walk away with. When we take our eyes off God, our eyes will find a God, little g God, to worship. When we take our eyes off God, our eyes will find a God to worship. And so does anybody remember the character we talked about last week? Who was it we talked about last week? David. I heard David be passed around. So check this out. So David, when we talked about him last week, he was a middle schooler. He was 13, 14, 15 years old. And this week, guess what? We're going to be talking about David. But he's grown up a little bit. He is now the king of Israel. This dude is grown and he is a king and he is ready to go to battle. He's doing all the king stuff, right? And so the story that we're going to be picking up in is in 2 Samuel chapter 11. 2 Samuel chapter 11. And this is the story of David and Bathsheba. David and Bathsheba. It's a very interesting name, that name. I hope nobody plans on naming their kid that. It's kind of weird, to be honest with you. But this is the story of David and Bathsheba. It's really long, and so we don't have time to read it, but I just kind of want to share it with you. And so this is kind of how the story goes. And so the scripture says that David sends his men out to battle. It says it's the time of year where they go out to battle, right? And so what normal kings do is they go out to battle with their army. But David chose to stay back. David chose to stay home, chose to be comfortable, how we talked about last week. He chose to stay home. And so one day he's relaxing. He's probably watching some TV, Disney Plus. You know, they had that back in the day. And so he gets bored. He gets bored from that. He gets up from the couch, the scripture says, and he goes and walks out on the balcony, his balcony. Now, if you think about a king, right, they have the best house in all the land. They're living in this beautiful castle, right? And so David, of course, is living in this great house. He's got this balcony that looks over all the city. And so he goes out to the balcony and he starts looking around, and then all of a sudden his eye catches what scripture says is a beautiful woman. And so David fixes his eyes on this beautiful woman. And the thing about this woman is she is actually taking a bath. And so David's like, oh my gosh, I'm really interested in this. And so he tells his boys, hey boys, why don't you go get this lady? I want to talk to her. And so they wind up going to get this girl. She comes back. They wind up sleeping together, and then a couple of months later, she comes back to David, and they're pregnant. And so what does David do? David freaks out. He freaks out, and his first idea is to kill the woman's husband. Kill the woman's husband. Ain't that wild, right? And so he writes this letter. He writes this letter to his most trusted general who they're still out fighting, right? And so he writes this letter and he's like, yo, I need you to make sure Uriah dies. Put him in the hardest battle, put him on the front lines, make sure that he dies. And sadly, that is exactly what happened. And so what was David's first response to him falling into this sexual temptation, this sin? His first response was to hide it and to kill somebody. Man, think about it, man. We're going to get into this just a little bit later, but man, we saw last week, man, David was on a high. Man, David loved God. He was confident in God. He trusted God with all of his heart. Man, he defeated this giant, but now we see David quite a few years later, and it almost seems like he forgot about God. Maybe he took his eyes off God. And so what I want us to do tonight is you see 5 different blanks in your handout. And so I just want to go over 5 ways where we can battle sexual temptation. 5 ways that I believe will help us fight this sin. And so the very first one is draw near to God. Draw near to God. James 4:7-8 says, submit yourself therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. And so Has anybody in here met my wife, Lindsay? I know she sat in with the 8th grade girls this past Uprise, and so some of you may know her. And so me and her, just to let you guys on a little secret, we're best friends. We love hanging out with each other. We just love doing life with each other. And so how did we become best friends? Man, whenever we were dating, we loved talking. We loved going on dates. We just loved hanging out. We did fun things together. We went on walks. We talked about our struggles. We talked about our victories. We were helping each other through those things, right? Man, we just did life together, man, and we became best friends. Maybe some of you can identify with that, maybe with one of your best friends. But it's no different with our relationship with God. Man, if you're asking the question in your life, man, why don't I feel close to God? Why am I not feeling as close to God as maybe I think I should? Man, James clearly says why in the scripture that he wrote. And you probably don't feel close to God because you're not drawing close to him. You're not in constant communication with him. You're not maybe talking to him on a daily basis, reading the word, praying, man, spending time with him. But why is this strategy the most important? This is the most important strategy out of all of them. The most important way we can defeat sexual temptations. And so let's go back to David's life. And like I said before, man, David was on this high, right? He was actually in the valley. He was in a valley when he was whenever he was fighting Goliath. He was in this valley, but in the valley, in one of the lowest points of his life, man, he trusted God. He trusted God, man. But as soon as he gets up to the mountaintop, as soon as he becomes king, man, it seems like he just takes his eyes off of God. Man, David as a 13, 14-year-old man could defeat a giant, Goliath. But man, as a king, he can't even defeat his own thoughts, his own temptations. And so what's true for David is true for us today. Man, whenever we take our eyes off God, man, our eyes will find a God to worship. And so just want to make this clear as well, man. The rest of these things that we're about to lay out, man, are meaningless if we first do not have a relationship with God. Man, none of these other things are going to make sense or is going to be even worth trying if we do not have a relationship with God. And so the second thing that I want us to know walking out of here and learning how to fight sexual temptation is location. That's a lot of locations. But I'm telling you, it is nearly impossible to give in to this sin if you are never in a room with your girlfriend or boyfriend alone. It is nearly impossible to fall into this sin, to give in to sexual temptation if you are never in a room alone with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Man, it is nearly impossible to fall into this sin if you don't have your phone with you late at night, if it's in another room. Man, it is nearly impossible for you to fall in. Man, it's nearly impossible for you to give into the sin if you never have a TV to watch dirty movies or TV shows in your room. It's all about location. Man, are you putting yourself in these situations to fall into this sin? Man, it's so convenient. Man, we make it so convenient for ourselves, right? Man, we fall asleep. Man, we have our phones right there beside our bed every single night. Man, it's so easy just to roll over and get on Snapchat, to get on whatever website you go to. Man, it's so easy to do that, but what if that phone was never there? What if it was in your parents' room? What if you left it in the kitchen? Man, you're making it so easy for yourself to fall into this sin. Man, tonight, make that decision to make it as inconvenient as possible for yourself to fall into this sin. Man, the third thing that I want us to walk away with is, it's kind of a weird phrase, but it's urge surfing. urge surfing. And so I know that's a weird phrase, but let me just explain it just a little bit. And so, man, temptation is kind of like a wave, isn't it? Man, I know every single one of you have been to the beach, right? And you really can't tell like when a wave starts, right? You can't tell, oh, it's starting right there. Man, it just kind of, it's gradually building, and then boom, it kind of hits you. It kind of hits you. And so, man, urge surfing. Man, think about back to the Minions, right? Man, they were like, oh my gosh, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. And then they didn't even think about this wave, them being captured, was about to hit them. But they ran right into it. Man, 1 Corinthians 6:18 literally says, run. Run from sexual sin. Run from this temptation. Man, if you think you can resist this, if you think you can get up the willpower to fight through it, I'm telling you right now that you will never get up the amount of strength to get past this temptation. And the only option that you have is, as the scripture says, is to run. Is to run and keep your eyes on Jesus. Run and keep your eyes on Jesus. Man, the fourth thing is uproot this sin. Uproot it. Uproot it. And so I want you guys to maybe help me out with something real quick. And so I got this tree in my front yard that I need it gone, right? For all you tree lovers out there, I'm sorry, but this tree I just need it gone, okay? And so there's this tree, I need it gone. And so here's what I've been thinking. Do you guys think that if I just cut off all the branches, if I just cut off all the limbs, that it'll be gone, or like it would die and just go away, never grow back, right? No, right? Okay. Here's the second thing that I was thinking about. What if I just like cut it down like right at the trunk? Like, is that going to grow back? No. It's going to grow back. It will grow back, but I don't want it to grow back, right? And so the only other option that I think will cause this tree to die and never to grow back is to cut off its life source. What's a tree? What's a plant's life source? I know we're in science class right now. The roots of it. And so, man, you may be asking yourself, man, why am I still struggling with this? Why am I still fighting this temptation? Fill in the blank of whatever temptation that you're fighting right now. Why am I still fighting this? It might be because you're doing everything in your power except cutting off the life source from that. Think back, location of your phone. Maybe every night you're falling into that sin, and all you have to do is roll over, and that phone is still there. That phone is your life source. Man, get rid of that life source. Delete those apps. Tell your mom or tell your dad, hey, I need some sort of parental control on this thing. Hey, mom and dad, I'm going to put my phone in your bedroom. Make sure I don't come and get it. Man, cut off that life source. Whatever it is you have to do, delete an app, get rid of your phone, whatever it is. Cut off that life source from that sin. And keep your eyes on Jesus. And so the very last thing is iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. And so, man, if we think back to David, man, he had people around him, like I said, that helped him fall into this sin. It literally says in verse 4 of 2 Samuel 11, it says, so David sent messengers and they took her. He literally had people helping him fall into this sin. There wasn't anybody around him that said, hey, this is not okay. This is not okay. And I'm sure all of you maybe have heard the phrase before, show me your friends and I will show you your future. Right? I heard a couple of you finish that phrase. You've heard that before. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Man, here's the question that I have for you tonight. Man, is it normal? Is it normal inside of your friend group to ask for these inappropriate photos? Is it normal inside of your friend group to send inappropriate photos? Man, is it normal inside of your group, man, maybe to share different websites you found that get around all these blocks that maybe the school or your parents have put into place? Is that normal? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Or is it normal that your friend group encourages you, helps you through your struggle? Man, loves you even though you mess up. Man, forgives you whenever you wrong them. You forgive them whenever you wrong them. Man, is your friend group showing grace to you? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future, because iron always sharpens iron. And so I know that you guys are met with so many different truths every single day. You guys are on social media. You guys go to middle school. You guys go home. You guys come here. You guys are hearing so many different truths. Man, maybe there are people in your life who says sexual temptation is okay. And it is okay to share these photos. It is okay to go to these websites. It's okay to do all these things. It's okay. Maybe that's what you're hearing. And then you come here and you're kind of met with the opposite. Man, it's not okay, because these things lead to destruction. They lead to destroying relationships and families. And so maybe you're just asking yourself, man, what do I believe? What do I believe? How do I find what is really true? How do I find what is really true? And so what I want to tell you tonight is the truth. This is the truth. That these images, that these websites, that these social media apps, that whatever the sin and these temptations you're giving into, man, they are draining the life out of you. They are draining the life, literal life out of you. Man, these things that you're falling into, these sins, man, they are causing you to fear. They are causing you to lie to your parents, to try to hide, to try to hide these sins, and because you are hiding these sins, man, it is causing guilt and shame to come on your life, and you're feeling that, and it's heavy. That's the truth, man. Whenever you fall into these sins, man, it is causing anxiety to come on your life. Man, you're thinking, oh my gosh, where am I going to get my next picture? Man, when is the next time am I going to go on this website? Man, how am I going to be fulfilled for a second again? It's anxiety. And every time you go back to these things, man, just self-control. Your self-control just dwindles down little by little. And you start becoming comfortable with all these things. And every time you give into these sexual temptations, man, those moments are fleeting. It will always leave you empty. And because you will always feel empty, you think that you have to keep going back and back and back to be filled again. And that is wrong. But here's what I want to challenge you with tonight. To say no. To say no one time. Say no one time and say yes to Jesus one time. Say no to that temptation that you're going to have tonight and say yes to Jesus. Because whenever you say yes to Jesus, I promise you the grace and freedom that you're going to feel, you're never going to want to go back. Now here's the thing about just saying no. Man, you saying no, there always has to follow with a yes. Man, if you just say no your entire life, man, you're gonna struggle. Your life is not gonna sustain. But whenever you say yes to Jesus, man, He is the only one who can fill the emptiness inside of your life. Now, here's the thing about our God. Here's the thing about our God, man, that He is taking the responsibility away from you to fight this sin. He's taken it away from you. You don't have to fight this sin anymore. As we've been learning throughout this whole series, man, Jesus, God is the only one who can defeat this giant inside of your life. He's the only one who can defeat this giant. And so he's taken that responsibility away from you, because if we still had that responsibility, man, we would give into it every single time. But because that responsibility was put on Jesus, Jesus said, I'm gonna take this responsibility, I'm gonna take this sin, and I'm gonna nail it to the cross, and I'm gonna pay for the debt that you owe for this, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And so whenever we take our eyes off God, our eyes will find a God to worship. Our eyes are going to find something to fill our life. But he's the only one who can defeat the giants in our life. And so why do we need to flee from this sexual temptation, these sins in our life? Because everything that God is better. Everything that God is better than everything else that you could ever think of. Every desire, every thought, every person, every image, every video, he's better than it. He's the only one who can sustain you. He's the only one that can give you life. He is the only one who can fill your heart completely. He's better.